There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Wednesday, May 6th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin was up 3.8% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,250, a high of 9,387, and a low of 8,838. Volume was high again, with 7,251 Bitcoins trading hands. Margin longs continue to lead the day, with 78% of the market leaning that direction. The halving is getting closer and closer, now estimated for May 11th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, just 757 blocks away. We're going to go ahead and get set up this morning, pull up the chat, see what's going on YouTube. It's a great time to give us a thumbs up and a share. Look, you can hear me echoing in the YouTube. It's great. So we're checking it out. Give us a thumbs up and a share. Hello to Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. Thanks so much for joining us. Got a lot going on today. Let's see. We're going to do a long show. There's questions in the chat, or kind of a long show. I'll take some calls if you guys want. I'll put the number in now, but I'm probably going to talk for a while first, so maybe I'll put the number in a little later. But yeah, that was the Bitcoin part. We'll talk about Bitcoin again towards the end when we do some more about the prices and some technical analysis from CoinDesk. First, I wanted to talk about, let's see. Well, first I'm supposed to read a Bukowski poem. This is the Thomas Hunt Show. I've read this one before. I don't care, but I'll read it again. I could look at the chat sometimes, but not that much. All right, let's see. Here we go. Man in the Sun. She reads to me from the New Yorker, which I don't buy. Don't know how they get in here, but it's something about the mafia. One of the heads of the mafia who ate too much and had it too easy. Too many fine women patting his walnuts, and he got fat sucking at good cigars and young breasts, and he has these heart attacks. And so one day, somebody is driving him in this big car along the road, and he doesn't feel so good. And he asks the boy to stop and let him out, and the boy lays him out along the road in the fine sunshine. I don't know whether it's Crete or Sicily or Italy proper, but he's lying there in the sunshine, and before he dies, he says, "How beautiful life can be." And then he's gone. Sometimes you've got to kill 4,000 or 5,000 men before somehow you get to believe that the sparrow is immortal, money is piss, and that you've been wasting your time. Charles Bukowski from the book Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame, Selected Poems 1955 to 1973. Little Bukowski to get you started today. Today we have no choice. We have to talk about world issues, but first we want to lose our ad rights and do some fair use viewing of the end of Planet of the Apes 1968. Obviously, spoilers if you haven't seen this much parodied and much discussed scene. Charlton Heston and his lady have just escaped from the apes. Things are looking pretty good. It's actually a positive moment in what is mostly a stressful film. Most people forget the beginning of the film. It's very science fiction. He's in a spaceship. He's going to other worlds. Has a lot of 2001, which of course was a popular movie at the time. They're riding along. Everything's good. Looks like maybe the California or I suppose New York coast, if we really want to do it. And they see that something's wrong. You can't really tell what it is. Obviously, with hindsight, we can say that's the torch of the Statue of Liberty. It's been melted down. It's been torn down a little. So we get a little precursor of what's going to happen next. He's looking at it. He knows. We don't know. Then the scene changes and the crown of the statue becomes visible. And Charlton Heston starts to get a clear idea. Now the audience is in on it. Charleston's in on it. He's walking up to it, and he's starting to realize what's happened to him.
Oh my God. I'm back. I'm home. All the time it was. We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
And there it is, the melted corpse of the Statue of Liberty. Just a reminder of what things look like after. We're still in the before part today, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I was looking at the old charts here from, what's it called? Of Numbers or something like that. Let's see, it's called worldometers.info. And I was looking at the charts for the United States, and I was looking at total cases, and I was looking at daily new cases, and I said, yep, you know, maybe we've flattened the curve, right? But a lot of people seem to have forgotten that after you flatten the curve, you have to actually have it go down, right? If you don't flatten the curve and then have it go down, it only has one other real way to go, which is going to be up. Let's take a look at South Korea. South Korea had their first case on the same day as the United States. South Korea has a flat curve, but when we look at daily new cases, we see that not only have they peaked, they've gone down and almost nearly eliminated new cases. That's why it makes sense for someone like South Korea or maybe Germany to try to reopen. If you have something like this going on, basically what you're doing when you're reopening is you're adding fuel to the fire. And I know a lot of you don't believe in this, and that's hilarious to me. But when we get out on the other side of this, and we're already pretty far from where we were a few weeks ago when we were doing the show regularly, and I was telling you how bad it was going to be, even in the United States, even in the most industrialized, most intelligent, most gifted country in the world, how bad it would be because we didn't prepare. And we're entering into a new phase of how bad it can be because it's going to get worse because we don't have any patience. Our society lacks a lot of things. We're good at a lot of things. We're good at flashy things like MTV and movies, music. Having traveled the world just a little bit, I can tell you with shocking results. There are Marvel comics in every store in the world. There are Star Trek and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, certainly a British book, but an American movie. And they're everywhere, and they're dominant. And that's what we're great at. This is the part we're not so great at. Making shared sacrifices. I've seen a lot of people. I talked to some people, and they don't think they should wear masks. They realize that the mask doesn't really protect them. It protects other people. And they think that they shouldn't protect other people. And that's what the United States is not good at. We've had it in the past where we have come together. And we tried to in this one. There was an initial surge of increased popularity for the president as people tried to rally around the flag, as we'd done in the past, even with W. Bush and 9/11, which resulted in 2 wars. I believe both unnecessary, but one certainly more unnecessary than the other. So maybe we've been punished for rallying around the flag, and maybe we can't do it this time. And we can't rally around a flag that's against science. Just yesterday, the new impeachment case started in the Trump world as he's being attacked by a doctor that he fired. The doctor didn't want to give contracts to Trump's friends for money, and the doctor didn't want to prescribe hydroxychloroquine until it was tested. So we're now seeing a whole new phase in the denial of experts and the denial of science. And this is building and it's growing with the collapse of the president's daily press conferences. We all knew it was a major breaking point, certainly. It's never quite going to break through to people, it seems, sadly. despite the fact that we're having a new 9/11 worth of deaths every day, and that we've already lost more people than the Vietnam War. But it doesn't seem like it's going to break through. But it did break the press conferences when the president said that you could inject light or disinfectant inside of the body to attempt to cure the disease. He actually posited it as if were a new idea because he wanted to save the day. And this is something we talked about a few weeks ago, and you guys didn't believe it. And you're like, why would he get up there and promote an untested medicine? Why would he lie? And I said, the man he wants to bring you good news. If he was selling you real estate or a condominium, no matter what happened in the market, he would bring you good news. That's what he's practiced at. That's his business. That's what he does. And he just wanted to cure it. He felt bad that he probably helped cause the spread of it, or maybe he doesn't feel bad. I don't know. And he wanted to cure it quickly. So that's why he was pushing the hydroxychloroquine, and that's why they were pushing it behind the scenes as well. But it turns out when you actually test the medication, it doesn't cure it. Hydroxychloroquine actually causes more people to die. And yes, many of these anecdotal stories, which means personal examples. You had 2 or 3 people here or there that were given this medicine who probably scientifically would have lived anyway. And they were given the medicine and they happened to live anyway. And you can't take these as scientific facts. We have to do actual studies. We have to actually study the thing. And when we studied the thing, it didn't work. There was another one. It wasn't as widely promoted, called, it's hard to say, it's called remdesivir, something like that. And people had a lot of hopes for that as well. It wasn't advertised at the president's briefings, but unfortunately, remdesivir also did not work in clinical tests. We can't just wish this away. I see a lot of people wishing it away. I watched a video today how they're they're reopening a miniature golf course in my old town of Sacramento. And they're desperate. They're desperate to reopen the casinos here. And there's one thing we can do. It's really obvious. I know you guys don't like it. I'm against it, but I also understand what a crisis is, right? We are in a real crisis. Our chosen economic system, sorry Austrians, is Keynesianism, right? Bitcoin is not Keynesianist, right? Bitcoin, we've talked about this. I talk about it pretty often, but Bitcoin removes the ability of the government to print money. This is great, right? This means no more weapons for war. We can't just stock up on a bunch of weapons. And you know what happens? You stock up on all these weapons and they're starting to expire. You know, not that the bullets go bad, but you know, you just got to keep things going. We're going to take calls in just a little bit. Sorry about that. I'm kind of going here. So, you know, the weapons expire. You got to use the weapons. So that's the good part of Bitcoin. It stops money printing for bad projects like weapons, like war. The other side of Bitcoin, though, it stops money printing for good projects like disaster relief, like when we have Hurricane Katrina and we say, okay, we're going to go rebuild the houses. We're going to go help the people. We want to do that. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I'm not going to say I support rebuilding in tornado and hurricane zones. I think we can go on a case-by-case basis. But really, we print money in times of crisis. Right? That's the official reason for Keynesianism. It was developed kind of after World War I, World War II, around that time. And the idea was that the government could step in during a crisis. As it says here from the Wikipedia, Keynesian economists generally advocate a managed market economy, predominantly private sector, but with an active role for government intervention during recessions and depressions. And this right here is much more than a recession or a depression. This is a crisis caused by a pandemic. So again, it doesn't matter where the source of the recession or the depression comes from. Our economy, the United States, is generally Keynesianism. So the idea is, as much as it's horrifying, to print your way out of this, right? Will it cause inflation? Will we get to that level? I'm not sure that we're going to print that much. I do think we're going to print a lot, though. I think right now we've done some inefficient printing. I think that if they'd done more efficient printing, I mean, I don't have the article up here, but we could look at the Danish model. In Denmark, the idea was to keep the firm together. You have this knowledge, even if the knowledge is just how to make a smoothie at Jamba Juice or how to serve tables, you have this knowledge of the firm, the ability of the people to work together, and you want to give them something to go back to. You want people to still have jobs. So in Denmark, they got out ahead of this. They paid all the businesses, and then they told all the businesses to pay all their workers, unlike what happened with the airlines. That's the keep the firm model, right? In the United States, we did not go with the keep the firm model, right? And again, this isn't, I'm not, I would prefer the keep the firm, but I can only report to you what we've done, what has happened. We're on the unemployment model, right? We broke up the firms. All the knowledge in ticket taking, all the knowledge in casinos, all the knowledge in making drinks, whatever it is, we broke up those firms. Yes, the people still have the knowledge. A bartender still knows how to make drinks. We can plug him in at another bar or her, and things will go on, right? That's the plan. All the firms, though, all the small businesses, we're trying to save them and things, but these are just patches and Band-Aids. And that's why there's such an advocacy for this reopening. That's why people are so desperate, is that we aren't quite doing Keynesianism right. And yes, it's not my personal choice to print a lot of money, right? But when I look at a crisis and I look at the tools we have, right? And if we were in an all Bitcoin economy, if this was 10, 15 years from now, I would look in that toolbox and it would be empty. And I would say to you, well, we're going to need some big Bitcoiners to make some big donations of their own wealth so we can clean this thing up. And it might not even work. We might not even be able to gather the wealth. We might not be able to generate the wealth. And even now, yes, when we print the wealth, we're not truly gathering the wealth. We're diluting the other wealth. But still, in this time of crisis, we needed to print our way out of it. Now, it seems, in quite the horror of a scientific person, that we're going to try to die our way out of it. This is a brand new virus. This is a novel, brand new. That means novel, a unique, a creative, right? We just don't know that much about it. The first articles about it came out in the end of December and the beginning of January. It was described as a new form of pneumonia. I remember reading about it. I have a little science tab on Google News. Even though I'm not, trained scientist or anything, I try to keep up on science news because it could come in handy. And this did come in handy. I was worried in January and February. I was stocking up food in the end of February, and I've been inside since March. So paying attention to science can be good. And what we're going to do now is we're not going to pay attention to science. The president said everyone should drink bleach and disinfectant and put light inside of their body to cure it. And then he decided he's going to stop talking to us. And then he canceled all his briefings. And then he tried to disband the coronavirus task force. He's tired of it. The American people are tired of it. They just don't have the attention span. We used to worry about this in casual ways where it didn't matter. People aren't reading books. People aren't studying science. People don't believe in experts. People aren't learning about civics. Like the knowledge that I gained, I had to do a lot of extracurricular reading and work on my own to gain. They didn't force me to read these things. The things they forced me to read were less interesting than the things I found on my own. But a lot of people aren't looking. And a lot of people aren't finding anything because they aren't looking. And they're not thinking. Maybe it's not enough science fiction. Maybe it's not enough spaceship thought. I don't have it up here, but there's a great CPG Grey video. Just came out a couple of days ago about how to live through the crisis and come out better on the other side. And yes, he means staying home. He means staying in one small room, breaking your day up into activities, working on exercise, working on mental acuity, reading books, challenging yourself, having a work time, working on your work projects if you can at home as best you can, and sleep. And that if we do those 4 things every day and we focus on it, maybe we take some side projects. I'm still working on German on Duolingo. And it's just it's that video game from Star Trek 2. I just play it every day, and maybe I'm getting better at German. I don't know. I kind of feel like I can read it. Like I can see a bunch of words, and I know that the ands and the ofs and the ifs. I know the connecting words, but I don't know it all. But yes, we need to stay inside. We need to get better. We need to stay in our airlocks. We're all in science fiction now. Now, a lot of people, they never wanted to be in science fiction. They didn't spend their time watching all those movies and reading all those books and thinking about what we were going to do if we were all on a spaceship together. And I've already read that book. I've got it over there somewhere. Buckminster Fuller. It's called A Guide to Spaceship Earth. And Buckminster Fuller, a great inventor, very creative and inventive genius, had this idea a long time ago, in the 60s or 50s, 70s, but about how we're all on the same spaceship. And even JFK expressed this idea, the air that we breathe, our shared destiny, these kind of things. And it's pointless to deny it, right? Clearly, we're all on the same spaceship. Clearly, we're all sharing the same air. And that's, when we come to things like climate change and we come to those kind of things. And these are the things that we're not good at, putting these long-term decisions off. Oh, if I don't drive my car today, maybe 30 years from now, people could breathe. Things like this. We can't quite make that decision. And right now, we're barreling right into it with the coronavirus. I can already tell you what's going to happen. This chart's going to go up. It's going to go up like a U because we are going back outside to feed this virus. And a lot of people are really excited. They say, oh, the virus only kills old people. We're only feeding it the generation that got us here. We're only feeding it the people that fought in World War II and the people who fought in Vietnam. We're just feeding it the old people. But the virus also, we don't know that much about the virus to just say that. Like that's the, people that have had the virus for a while. We've had the flu for thousands of years. We know a lot about the flu. We know a lot about it. It keeps coming back. This might be one of those things where we don't develop antibodies, and every year we have a coronavirus season, and it kills off more old people, and more young, perfectly strong people are struck down for 2 weeks in their homes with someone stamping on their chest, losing their taste of smell and taste, feeling very sick as if they're dying. Young, healthy people. And the other spoiler for you, I hate to remind you, America, as I'm sitting here in my chair and you're sitting there in your chair and you're on the couch and we're all on the couch together, we're fat. America's fat. A lot of people are obese and overweight, myself included. No doubt. I eat the same food as you guys. And obesity, being overweight, is one of the killers on this thing. So I see a lot of people out there at the beaches and a lot of people out there at the protests, and they're all like, I'm young and strong, and nothing's going to kill me. Well, you're young and strong, but you also weigh 300 pounds, buddy. And I'm not saying I don't have it. I'm saying we all have it. I mean, the food is crap. The exercise is expensive. Even these days, you can't get out. I did join a gym this year. Hell of a lot of good it did. But, it's cheap enough. It's the cheapest gym they had. But now we're going to go outside. We're going to get this thing. And the main thing that I'm talking about here and why I wanted to bring this up is just how bad it feels to be. And I hope I'm wrong. I know there's the cheering out in the crowd. Oh, it's so bad. We're closing the whole country down for the flu. We're going to lose our economy over the flu. Let's hope I'm wrong, right? I'm right there with you. Like, everyone goes out. Everything's fine. We stomp this virus down. But that's not what we're doing. We're not playing the stomp the virus down game. They played that in South Korea. They play it all over the Asian economies. They put on masks early. We were conspiracy theorists telling you to put on masks, right? Balaji, all these other, extensive, really clever Twitter people, all telling us basically the truth that masks help stop the spread of the disease. Maybe it doesn't protect you 100%, but it could stop spreading it. Like I said on the Adam Meister show with Tone, A normal flu virus has a spreading ability of R0 or R1, which your average person goes to your work or whatever. You cough, you sneeze, you got to keep working because you don't have paid time off. You don't have medical care. This is the United States of America, after all. You have to keep working. You probably infect 10 to 12 people, right? That's bad. Like, maybe you should stay home. Maybe you should wear a mask, when you start feeling sick. But that's not end of the world bad. If this thing has an R of 3, right, it's exponential. It's not like 1, 2, 3. It's more like 3, 6, 9, right? The thing grows. If it has an R3 and you go out, and again, you don't know that you're sick. There's the asymptomatic period appears to be 14 days. So for 14 days, you go out there, I'm strong. I ain't got no virus. I'm from Minnesota. I'm strong. You go out there, right, for 15 days, you spread it to an estimated 59,000 people. So even if they don't die, even if out of the 59,000, only a couple thousand old people die, right? And you don't care because they had a good run, right? That's 2 weeks for every person, at least, that you're taking them down. That's a month. That's taking out, 34.5 thousand people for a month. So if you think the economy is just going to go back to normal, and if you think people are just going to go back to crowded restaurants and movie theaters and concerts, with the idea being that you could be struck down for 2 weeks with a possibility of death, roll the dice. It's always fun. Russian roulette, very popular game in America. All the kids are playing it. So yeah, and then also there's more to it. It's not just dying. They also say it's possible that it could have permanent damage to your lungs and other systems. So it could take years off your life, even if you're young and healthy and you don't care. You're young and healthy, you don't care, you got to get out there, you got to play miniature golf, you got to play normal golf. You've been stuck inside for 3 months, my God, 3 months. Back to the science fiction example. Remember all the people volunteering to go to Mars? I remember how long you'd have to stay inside to go to Mars. And I remember the test. They were going to lock these. There's some of it. They were like, how long can a person stay in bed? Let's find out, right? And they were making people stay in bed for months and months and months. They made these Mars test people stay inside for 1.5 years easy. And when they got outside, they weren't in Mars, right? They were in Arizona or wherever the test was. They're in a big lab facility, right? They don't even get to go to Mars. We can't stay inside 2 months. We don't have the fortitude. We don't have the strength of character anymore. I was thinking about the Blitz the other day in London and how they were bombed and how they sent their children off to the countryside, probably never to see their children again, but to let their children live. And how the children and the people who did stay in the city, who stayed in London, they had to go underground not into the sewers, but into the underground, into the subway. And they sat next to each other, sometimes on benches, sometimes just on the floor. And they just sat there and they just listened to their city being destroyed above them. And they just listened, bomb after bomb and fires and just inferno raging above them. And they kept fighting. They didn't give up. The Blitz was a long time. It wasn't like just a day or two. It wasn't just 2 months. And they had rationing. They didn't have enough food. And they didn't have, services delivered to them. They couldn't just order things in apps. They didn't have an endless amount of television programs. They just sat down there. And it didn't make them weak. And it didn't make them feel like they were separate, right? That it was only happening to them. Of all these people in the tunnel, only I am giving anything up. The rest of you don't have anything valuable to do with your life anyway. You're over 70. You should just die. No, they didn't say that. They didn't leave the old people up in London to be bombed. They took them down into the tunnels too. And it wasn't that long ago. People still remember it. You can still find people that remember it. You can interview them and you can talk to them. You can say, how did it make you feel? Did you feel like just letting everyone else die? But that's what we're going to do. We're going to give it a try. We're going to go ahead and reopen instead of just printing more money. As much as we don't want to print more money and we don't want to cause inflation and all those things, Money is replaceable. Human lives are not. There are unique inputs in this machine, right? We're just starting to realize it with computers. Computers of the future, I believe, and we're getting close already, will treasure every unique interaction with a human. The only thing that the computer can't do is have these unique interactions. My computer right now, it's recording audio, it's transmitting some video, it's playing a web browser. All of this, it can do randomly, it could randomly generate. But me, with my ideas and my talking and the uniqueness of this show, the computer cannot recreate. It can study it, it can mimic it, and it can get really good at mimicry. It can maybe even do creative work someday soon. But for right now, this is what it can do. This is the best it can do. And we need to act like that computer. We need to value our human input. And a lot of people are like, oh, what does a 70-year-old man have to offer? He can't lift anything heavy. But maybe he can remember that time of the Blitz and he can tell us a story about it. Maybe he can tell us a story about his friend who used to play guitar. Maybe his friend's Jimi Hendrix. We're losing all these stories. We're losing all this unique inputs, even if they're not famous people, even if they don't matter. And yes, it's very much a class issue. If you have money to stay home, even if you're borrowing money to stay home, you're living on credit cards, like myself and some others, you're very wealthy. You're very lucky. People who don't have money to stay home are going out there. People who don't have patience to stay home, people who haven't watched enough science fiction movies, don't have the strength to stay home. You have to mentally shift. You have to get into a new gear. You have to be like the people in that tunnel, and you have to be stronger. I'm coming out when there's a vaccine. Get all afraid of vaccines or whatever, but it's a weakened version of the disease, and the smallpox vaccine saved hundreds of thousands of lives. The polio vaccine saved hundreds of thousands of lives. This vaccine is going to save hundreds of thousands of lives. But we're not going to get it for a couple more years. So I've been saying from the beginning that this show right here was delivering horrible, unfiltered honesty to you, that we're staying inside till the vaccine. No one else wants to say it. But we need to be strong, and we need to stay inside together. We were going to talk more about Keynesianism and government, and I was going to do the news. But I'm going to skip ahead to a statement from Mr. Fred Rogers, who was talking to the Senate about PBS funding on May 1st, 1969. Senator Pastore. All right, Rogers, you've got the floor. Mr. Rogers. Senator Pastore, this is a philosophical statement and would take about 10 minutes to read, so I'll not do that. One of the first things that a child learns in a healthy family is trust. And I trust that you have said that you will read this. It's very important to me. I care deeply about the children. Senator Pastore, will it make you happy if you read it? Mr. Rogers, I'd just like to talk about it if it's all right. My first children's program was on WQED 15 years ago, and its budget was $30. Now, with the help of the Sears Roebuck Foundation and the National Educational Television, as well as the affiliated stations, each station pays to show our program. It's a unique kind of funding in educational television. With our help, now our program has a budget of $6,000. It may sound like quite a difference, but $6,000 pays for less than 2 minutes of cartoons, 2 minutes of animated, what I'd sometimes say, bombardment. I'm very much concerned, as I know you are, about what's being delivered to our children in this country. And I've worked in the field of child development for 6 years now, trying to understand the inner needs of children. We deal with such things as the inner drama of childhood. We don't have to bop somebody over the head to make drama on the screen. We deal with such things as getting a haircut, or feelings about brothers and sisters, and the kind of anger that arises in simple family situations, and we speak to it constructively. Senator Pastore, how long of a program is it? Mr. Rogers, it's half hour every day. Most channels schedule it in the noontime as well as in the evening. Weta here has it scheduled in the late afternoon. Senator Pastore, could we get a copy of this program so we can see it? Maybe not today, but I'd very much like to see the program. Mr. Rogers, I'd like you to see it. Senator Pastore, I'd like to see the program itself or any one of them. Mr. Rogers, we made 100 programs for EEN, the Eastern Educational Network, and then when all the money ran out, people in Boston and Pittsburgh and Chicago all came to the fore and said, we've got to have more of this neighborhood expression of care. And this is what I give. I give a unique expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, you made this day a special day, just by you being you. There's no person in the world like you, and I like you just the way you are. And I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health. I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger, much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing, and for 15 years I've tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care. Do you narrate it? I'm the host, yes, and I do all the puppets, and I write the music, and I write all the scripts. Senator Pastore, well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days. Mr. Rogers, well, I'm grateful, not only for your goosebumps, but for your interest in our kind of communication. Could I tell you the words of one of the songs, which I feel is very important? Senator Pastore, yes. Mr. Rogers, this has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And that first line came straight from a child. I work with children doing puppets in very personal communication with small groups. And here's the song. What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag or see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong, and to be able to do something else instead, and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop any time. And what a good feeling to feel like this. And know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can someday a lady, and a boy can someday a man. Senator Pastore, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you earned the $20 million. I just think this is an important statement right now, like it was an important statement when he delivered it in 1969 to Congress about public broadcasting funding. I think what he's talking about with the expression of care is something that we're missing right now. The president doesn't have any feelings. It's a very casual thing. If you don't really look, you won't really notice. But there's been no celebrations of the dead. There's been very few remembrances. There's no national moments of unity. There's no lists of their names. We're pretending that these dead are different than the 9/11 dead, different than the Vietnam War dead. But they're not. It was preventable. It was avoidable. And the upcoming crisis is one that science knows what's going to happen. Cases are going to go up and to the right. There will be more dead.